The final chapter on JFK, Chapter 17, Segment 6, Selective Dumbness.
The Warren Commission waited more than 6 months to interview Jack Ruby, and when they did, didn't matter what he said, they completely ignored him as if what he was saying was not important, or as if they had already reached their conclusions and had their report written. Let's take a look and see what happened between Chief Justice Earl Warren and Jack Ruby on the day he was interviewed for over 3 hours. On Sunday, June 7th, 1964, months after Ruby had wanted to testify before the Warren Commission, 2 members of the Warren Commission came to visit him at the Dallas County Jail: Chief Justice Earl Warren and Congressman Gerald Ford. By the time the June 7th interrogation of Ruby began, it should be noted that the bulk of the commission's young staffers had already left and had gone back to their regular jobs. And in fact, the drafts of most of the Warren Commission report were already written and completed, which of course probably explains the lack of interest in anything Ruby had to say on June 7, 1964. While both men came to visit Jack Ruby, neither of them wanted to talk or question Ruby about any contacts or relationships that he had with organized crime. And clearly, Warren had no interest in actually listening to Ruby, because right after Jack Ruby was sworn in, the dialogue between the 2 men was as follows.
Am I boring you?
Go ahead, all right?
A review of the transcript for that session shows even more about the chairman's lack of interest in this matter. In the 3 hours and 5 minutes of sworn testimony, Jack Ruby made 8 separate requests to Earl Warren, advising him that he wanted to talk and to tell the truth as to what occurred. Yet this was ignored. Warren also ignored Ruby's 7 separate requests to be moved out of Dallas to Washington, D.C. in order to tell the commission what he actually knew. Earl Warren and the Warren Commission ignored everything Jack Ruby had to say. For instance, here is some of the banter between Ruby and Warren.
Gentlemen, if you want to hear any further testimony, you will have to get me to Washington soon, because this has something to do with Chief Warren. Do I sound sober enough to tell you this?
Yes, go right ahead.
I want to tell you the truth, and I can't tell it here. I can't tell it here. Does that make any sense to you?
Well, let's not talk about sense. But I really can't see why you can't tell this commission.
Earl Warren knew exactly what would happen if Jack Ruby was allowed to leave his Dallas jail to go to a place of safety in order to testify fully and truthfully. He even told Ruby what problems it would cause.
If you request me to go back to Washington with you right now, that couldn't be done, could it?
No, it could not be done. It could not be done. There are many things involved in that, Mr. Ruby.
What are they?
Well, the public attention that it would attract and the people who would be around.
One verbal exchange between Chief Justice Earl Warren and Ruby reveals that Warren, as a lawyer, and more importantly, as the Chief Justice of the American court system, committed such a gross error in fundamental witness examination that his conduct had to have been a deliberate choice.
Gentlemen, unless you get me to Washington, you can't get a fair shake out of me. If you understand my way of talking, you have got to bring me to Washington to get the tests. Do I sound dramatic, off the beam?
No, you're speaking very, very rationally, and I'm really surprised you can remember as much as you have remembered up to the present time. You have given it to us in detail.
Unless you can get me to Washington, and I am not a crackpot. I have all my senses. I don't want to evade any crime I am guilty of.
Warren would not take Ruby out of Dallas because he knew it would attract national and international attention. So instead of doing that, he kept a lid on Ruby and let him continue on, but he had no interest in what Ruby was saying. When Warren refused to listen to Ruby, Ruby started talking in code. Ruby told Warren that taking his testimony in June was so late in the game since Lyndon Johnson may have already relinquished certain powers to those certain people. Ruby further told Warren,
I have been used for a purpose, and there will be a certain tragic occurrence happening if you don't take my testimony and somehow vindicate me so my people don't suffer because of what I have done.
As Ruby's testimony finally came to an end, he prophesied to Warren that he would never see him again and he would be dead because during his interview, he still divulged certain information. Ironically, the perplexing conduct by the chairman of the President's Commission on the Assassination draws to the forefront the true purpose of the commission, and that was not to solve the crime of killing John F. Kennedy. When Ruby told Warren that he was in a tough spot, some of the commission staffers thought that Ruby was trying to speak on two levels, first making a denial and then making statements to undermine his denial. For instance, when Ruby was asked about whether he met with a rich oilman shortly before the assassination, Ruby fenced with the Chief Justice in the following manner.
How many days prior to the assassination was that?
My recollection is that it was a week or two. Is that correct?
Did anyone have any knowledge that their beloved president was going to visit here prior to that time? Or what was the definite time that they knew he was coming to Dallas?
Well, I don't know just what those dates are.
I see.
This was a cat and mouse game between Ruby and Earl Warren. Everyone there knew who was aware that JFK was coming to Dallas in October of 1963. Ruby knew it, Earl Warren knew it, and even Gerald Ford knew it. The people that knew that JFK was coming to Dallas in October of 1963 were the trip planners, Lyndon Baines Johnson and John Conley. Yet, no one in that room was willing to state their names outright. To end the banter on that specific issue, Ruby advised Warren and the other commission member there, Gerald Ford, that he was innocent of being involved in a conspiracy as much as they were. Or by reverse logic, he was as guilty of a conspiracy as they were. Let's play that segment for a second.
I just don't know. Well, we just wanted to ask you that question.
No, I am as innocent regarding any conspiracy as any of you gentlemen in the room.
Why would anyone, let alone the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, why would they not take control of an important witness who states that he is willing to tell the truth, but he has to do it in the confines of Washington, D.C., where he believes he will be safer? Why would they not take that witness, protect him, and take that testimony from that witness? Now, we can't come out and say that the members of the Warren Commission were crooks, but they did have their own motive and agenda, which was given to them by their creator, Lyndon Baines Johnson, and of all of the testimony that Jack Ruby gave on the day he was interviewed by Earl Warren, it couldn't be summarized any better than Ruby's testimony when he states, I am innocent of any conspiracy as any of you gentlemen in the room. Or, to put it another way, I am as guilty as you are. And of course, that's actually what Jack Ruby was saying. I'm guilty, and Warren and the rest of you, you're guilty too. With that said, I hope to see you in the next segment.